Hey guys, what's up? Freightliner Friday on Black Friday. I know it's been a while. We're here in the Freightliner Classic XL. Man, it feels so weird driving this thing. Feels like I haven't driven it in forever. I'm sure those of you who, I'm sure you guys know, it's only been a couple of days after my surgery, when I filmed this. But crazy thing about it is it feels like I haven't driven this in forever. So I'm still getting used to how to shift because it's a little wacky. It's still based off the Peterbilt shifter with high and low gears. So we're taking empty pallets going to Arizona. We're Phoenix, Arizona. We're in Las Vegas, Nevada. You know, gambling town. So it feels so weird driving this thing. And it also feels like I hadn't driven this in forever. Oh boy. Yeah, it feels like I hadn't driven it in forever, and that right there just shows. So, now, I want to talk a little bit about my post-surgery. So, they're saying that my pressure is still very high. And remember, guys, this is the Saturday before the week of the holiday. So they were saying that the pressure's still very high, and I'm noticing that some things are still hard to see. Alright, Jeep, you gonna let me through? Cool. With my eye being how it is, it still does make driving a little difficult. Things do get blurry, so. But I'm doing the best I can. School wasn't that much of a challenge. I was able to see things. It's weird, it's like the smaller things that are closer to me are easier to see than the blown up things that are a little bit further away. And that's the best way I can explain it. Those of you who've watched how I do this know that I usually look up at my TV. And I'm finding that to be a little challenging to kind of get a full glimpse of detail. So. But, who knows? I'm feeling better. I wasn't really noticing any pain or anything with my eye or like loss of vision, which is the scary part of it. So I mean that's the crazy part. Like I didn't know that my the pressure on my optic nerve went that high, to the point where they were worried about me losing my eye. So, and those of you guys know that really put a major cramp in stuff I wanted to do. So, like that would have cramped everything I'm doing here today. So, if I lost my eye. So, I went through a red light. Yeah, again, still trying to learn how to shift in this truck. It's very confusing for me. I'm so used to, going from different gears. And plus, the Las Vegas traffic situation. Those of you who've probably driven through it are saying, oh yeah, this isn't that bad. But I digress. you just overcome. Turn signal time. Made a little bit of profit and we slammed into somebody. I'm having trouble remembering to look in my mirrors too, so. But as of filming this, I'm on Easter vacation. Or not Easter, Thanksgiving vacation. So, you guys are watching this on Black Friday. There's probably going to be more videos from me that come out around. Little question for y'all that, as stuff goes flying off my desk. Little question for those of you. Oh man, I'm really doing bad here. Little question for those of you guys who've stayed around for this long of the video. Do you want me to keep doing like the vlog type stuff? I remember a little while back, Joe Hutchins, he's a good friend of the channel. Used to comment every video I did, and I know, sometimes you just don't have the strength or just don't want to comment. So I understand, don't worry about that. He recommended that I do some vlogging. You guys still want to see more of that? Let me know in the comments. The only problem is, and you guys can pick up on it right away, sometimes I just run out of things to say. Like when it's kind of like watching the news on a slow news day. Because I know you guys really aren't tuning in to watch the not really great quality production work here on trucks. I don't know, maybe you guys are watching just watching for the point of view here, the point of view truck here. But let me know what you guys tune in for too. I feel kind of horrible not knowing what my audience wants, really. Because how are you supposed to build a YouTube channel when you don't really know? I've had this channel for a little while. And I still feel I don't really know what people want, why people watch. It'd be nice to get a little bit of feedback, but I understand everybody's busy with the holiday and everything. I think sometimes you guys just watch me on mobile devices, and maybe you have younger children who like to watch my videos. That's why I try to keep it a little bit, more on the family-friendly side of things, but I am young, so there are things that I probably do say that you probably don't want your kids, maybe grandkids hearing. I know I talk about some of the topics I've come up with when I first started doing this weren't really that family friendly to say. But, and I don't know, man, maybe I lost my spark, maybe I lost my edge here with these trucks. I am still getting back into it. It had been about a week since I've driven and talked. So, last time I drove, I was driving the Pete 389, and that wasn't Truck and Talk Thursday. That was the day before. That was the Thursday before I went back to school. So there we go, finding the good shifting points here, getting back into the routine. Now my truck's kind of pretty smacked up, so after this delivery I am going to go take it, get it fixed up. But, it is what it is. Even though I'm having a hard time driving here, I do enjoy driving. It's something that I think with a little bit more practice, experience, I'll get better. I'll get back to where I was, becoming a better semi-truck driver. I know, anybody sends this to like companies, truck driving companies, try to, they use this as a measure of how good of a driver I am. It's like, yeah, we don't want that guy. Look, I'm weaving everywhere in this Freightliner. So, but I've also heard from people who've driven semi-trucks in real life that Peterbilt's are smooth trucks. Freightliners do actually have the real shaking, and that's what I've heard. One of the drivers I had called it a freight shaker. So, but again, I know a lot of you guys say, well, it's not really the truck, it's the driver. And I do agree to that to some extent. You know, driving this, going from my first truck, the Kenworth W900, to this was a bit of an experience. This is a lot wider, and it's got a different feel to it. Like that Kenworth W900, it's kind of like a 90s truck. I mean, it's probably a, more modern truck. And then going to this, it's like you're driving something straight out of the 70s. Wider, not really as fast, not really as peppy. Doesn't really have a lot of the creature comforts. And I guess that's what it's kind of like when you go from a 90s luxury car or a late 2000s, maybe 2013, to a 80s luxury car, 70s luxury car. Because I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys are of the age where you remember the classic car chase movies and seeing the luxury cars, or any movie that had an American luxury car and all the bounciness that they took after going over a bump. But for me, I can't say I miss those days because I was never really in those days, but watching the movies, I do kind of miss the look, the aesthetic, the feel that you get as a viewer, as a moviegoer of those classic car chase movies, like Bullet, the original Gone in 60 Seconds, which, the original had nothing, the new one has nothing on the original. And I know there's people who like the new one, which it's okay to like the new one, but for me, really, the old one was where it was at. You had you had like more realistic stunts, you had better selection of cars. But then again, they did the best with what they had, trying to make a good car chase movie, and the audience really wasn't there in 2003. The car movie, it's kind of not really a great idea when you think about it, because you have to be a serious car buff now to get to, really want to go spend your money. Like, what is it for a movie these days? Like $10, $15 all in. Back then, tickets were cheap, and you didn't really have to be a car buff. Well, also, too, there were more car buffs back then. I feel confident in saying there were more car buffs back then. It was just a different time, I guess you could say. I mean, I don't know. This is just my experience. You guys might have a different experience and say, yeah, well, there's more car buffs now than there were back then. Also, too, keep in mind, you younger guys who tune into my channel, because I know there's a few of you, cars back then didn't really quite cost what they do now. Back then, you had a 2-car family, 3-car family, a 4-car family. You had the Sunday drive car, and you had the regular everyday daily driver, grocery getter car. So, it's kind of like me, I jumped from truck to truck, or how I started out, I jumped from truck to truck here. I started out with the W900. Well, actually, when I first started making videos, when I first started playing this game, I drove everybody else's truck. So, I was driving mostly Kenworths, and I think it mostly was the W900 or the T8000. And then drove a couple of Peterbilts through San Francisco. Didn't really like driving through San Francisco, but anyway, you had, going back to the point that I was trying to illustrate, you had a daily driver, and you had the car that you would just go cruising in. Which a lot of people right now don't have that luxury. A lot of people, you're lucky if you have 1 car. Extremely lucky if you have 2. More than that, kiss your lucky stars, I mean. So that's probably why the car movie has gone down. I mean, there's people who will argue that the Fast and Furious franchise is kind of trying to bring back the car movie, but in my opinion, no. And here are my reasons why. The car films that I talk about, Bullet, Gone in 60 Seconds, I bring those up because those are two of my favorite, and I think everybody should watch them. If you notice, it was more about the cars than the story. There wasn't a lot of dialogue, and it wasn't about illegal underground street racing. It was more about, you had a story other than the cars and illegal underground street racing. You weren't trying to do all these crazy things with cars, like drifting and stuff. It felt more natural, like it happened. You know, it wasn't people trying to manipulate the car, it's just, this is the measures that they needed to take with the car. Where in the Fast and Furious movies, it's more about, there's more of a story there, more of a cohesive story. It's a franchise. I think they have more writers. They probably have comparatively, respectfully, a bigger budget than they did on some of these car films. I know they had a bigger budget than the original Gone in 60 Seconds because H.B. Hackney was a car collector. You know, owned a junkyard, and this was a independent film. Most of those cars in that movie that they're stealing were cars that he owned or cars that were borrowed for the movie. So, you know, there was no rental car agent. Well, maybe there was, but he didn't go through a rental car or movie prop agency. So, and that's why, if you guys notice, a lot of my customs, or a good percent of my customs, are cars that are from these older movies. Because to me, they're really fun to look at. They're fun to just imagine the things you could do with them. And I think that's why there's a collector's market for like older cars. You know, cars from those days weren't meant to last forever. Actually, I think they were probably a little bit more mass-produced than cars these days. You know, Volkswagen had their V12 Phaeton in the early 2000s, which was a car that didn't sell that well because it was kind of trying to go after the Rolls-Royce market. Now, the thing with that is, when you're buying a Rolls-Royce, or so I've been told, not that I've ever bought a Rolls-Royce, or probably won't buy a Rolls-Royce, you're buying it more for the status of it's a Rolls-Royce. A lot of people will say, well, you know, superior price for a superior product. I don't really think so. I mean, I think it's a superior price because you have a brand name there. You know, it's like Cadillac. Cadillacs in the 20s and 30s were mostly used for taxi cabs, believe it or not, because they had 9 seats. Packard was the luxury car of that day. It didn't become, you know, a huge, big luxury brand till about after World War II, maybe 1954, when everybody, you know, really could start affording them. So, man, I lost my train of thought with this. I guess I'm like an old Model T Ford, you know? Hard to get started, but once I do, don't ever stop because, again, hard to get started. But the love of the 60s, 70s muscle car era, you know, that is just when it comes to car culture, in my opinion, that is just the high school experience, you know. You had the sleeper car that was kind of like the unpopular kid in high school in the cafeteria, you know, the kid who was going to go on and do great things. The nerd, the guy who was going to run a company, own a company, make millions of dollars. And then you had, you know, the big beefy bravado cars like the Dodge Charger. I mean, that was the car that you knew when it came, it was going to put up a good fight. You know, I equate the I equate the nerd to like your Datsun, your Nissan, your Toyota, your Japanese cars. Because, oh boy. Well, I'm glad you guys were here to see that. Almost flipped my truck. But yeah, I equate the foreign cars of the 60s and 70s to the nerdy kid in high school. You know, they'll always be around, you'll always hear about them, you'll always know about them. You know, the American car manufacturer and market was kind of underestimating what they do. Kind of like how everybody underestimates what's going to happen to the nerd kid in high school. You know, oh, he'll be quiet, he's not going to go far. Where you had the big, beefy, bravado jock guy who's like, you know, everybody wants him to succeed, everybody wants him to go into business for himself because he's such a personality, and you fall in love with the personality. You know, yeah, maybe this guy does some bad things, or, you know, has a reputation that follows him because he's popular and people let him get away with things. You know, that's what happened with the foreign cars in the 70s. Well, late 60s, early 70s. You know, they were so well engineered and manufactured because nobody was going to let them get away. You're walking into a foreign land where nobody knows your name, unlike the bar in Cheers, where everybody knows your name. You know, you're walking into a place where nobody knows your name. You can only make a first impression once. I think that's why they were so built so well, and that's why the prices were cheap, because, you know, there were very little creature comforts. My mom had a Datsun B210, the hatchback. Door panels were an option. They didn't come standard with door panels. Every car you buy these days has door panels. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of these, I'm pretty sure one of the options was floor mats. And I don't know, I mean, I'm pretty sure every car these days comes stock with floor mats. But the thing is, that car, that Datsun B210 that my mom had, because it was such a light car, it performed so well that, you know, going from one side of the state that I'm in right now, Delaware, to the other, and it is a small state, it didn't really take you didn't really have to fill up that much, where in a Cadillac, you're probably filling up halfway, going from one spot to the other. But don't get me wrong, guys, I still love big luxury cars more than the next guy, probably. And then the big luxury cars were the average people. You know, you knew who they were. You knew what to expect out of them. You know, you want a nice fine ride where it's like driving your living room? You get yourself a Lincoln or a Cadillac, maybe a Buick. And Buick was the doctor's car, you know. You can't show up in a little Chevrolet because everybody's going to think you're unsuccessful, but you can't be so flashy. So you can't drive a big old Cadillac if you're a doctor. You drive the mid-range. You know, the mid-price range, which is Buick. And Buick was beautiful. I mean, some of the cars they put out, I can't name any off the top of my head, but, you know, they were probably a good contender because they knew their market. They knew, okay, we're going to get a lot of doctors, we're going to get a lot of lawyers. So why don't we make a product for them? Something that has a lot of comfort, but not a lot of flash. Now the crazy thing is just to see how these cars have been revered, you know. When it comes to car culture, I started out, the first cars that always caught my interest were lowriders, with the hydraulics and the custom paint jobs, sometimes even murals. I mean, murals were like the thing for me, because just seeing the bright colors, the different images, and wondering how people got those on their cars, Back in the day, you needed to know a guy with a steady hand and a small enough airbrush. Very talented, a lot of good ideas. And here we go with the engine malfunction. Back in the day, that's how it was. Now with like all the tuners, I remember sitting in a movie theater before the original Fast and Furious came out, where they were showing you that a lot of the designs on these cars for those tuner cars are just computer printed out stickers, pretty much, vinyl wraps and stuff. I mean, it's a little bit more affordable, but still, I don't think you get as nice a look with the vinyl wraps and stuff. I don't think the artist takes as much pride in them. And what the heck is going on here? Oh boy. Yeah, everybody just go around, I'm nuts. Well, looks like I'm going to have to do something I have not done in a long while. Call for a tow. Yes. I pretty much lost all the money I could make on this haul, I'm pretty sure. I think it cost me about like $10,000. I'm not complaining, I got it in the game, so... But I mean, it's just crazy to see some of what people did with these lowriders. Like, anything can be... Ooh, passenger view? That's new. Anything can become a lowrider. I mean, even a Honda Civic in the world today could be a lowrider. But me, I like mostly your classic cars. Some of what you guys would consider muscle back then. 6.4 Impala SS. That was a muscle car, super sport. That's what the SS stood for. Chevelle. I've even seen Dodge Charger lowriders. And I'm talking like the 68, 69 RT. Something you would expect somebody to make a Dukes of Hazzard car. And that's why, if you notice, like, some of my better builds for my cars, my lowriders, my customs are lowriders, like that 65 Impala with the metal flake green. The convertible I chopped into, the car I chopped into a lowrider. Those are just something that, for me, they're fun to do, they come natural. I love doing cop car conversions, making unmarked police cars. Because also the bone I got to pick with Hot Wheels and Matchbox, well, I haven't been picking up a lot of those lately. You don't see a lot of what you see out on the road. Now, also, the reason why I'm so picky, too, is I'm still in that habit of doing HO scale trains. I never really got big into, knowing what train was pulling what train routes run through what. I mostly liked the little modeling aspect. I liked how you could make a whole scale city or a whole scale town just doing scenes, and that's kind of why I started doing that. I have my two little trains that I like. Well, actually, I think I'm at 3. I started out with a Santa Fe set, and that was when I was 9. I got a CSX from a train show. That was the last one I bought. And then in between that Santa Fe set was the Amtrak set. And when it comes to trains, I'm mostly looking at the stuff that I see every day. Your Norfolk Southern, the one with the horse, CSX is one that I used to see all the time. The Amtrak lines are the ones that I used to see all the time because my grandparents lived. Oh boy. My grandparents lived right outside from the, right across the street from the lines. And boy, in the summertime, man, was it noisy. Between the highway, the trucks, the train, people riding those super bikes, those, Japanese motorcycles with like 650cc engines and stuff. You would hear them. My grandfather also liked to keep it hot in the house. You could expect it to be like 85 in the winter, which I enjoyed. But, around the summertime, that's why I had to lay out in the basement somewhere to go for me where it was nice and cool. But, summertime, it was horrendous. I used to call it Steve's sauna, because that's my grandfather's first name, Steve. And it pretty much was a sauna. I swear, you go in there, you're looking to lose about 20 pounds if you stay fully clothed in the summer. What else did he used to do in the summer that made it so unbearable? Well, he had a gas stove. Still has a gas stove. And it was like full 4-course meal, full like square meals a day. So it would be meat, potatoes, vegetable, and then dessert. Oh man, they're gonna revoke my license after seeing this. I swear. But yeah, I jumped around from topic to topic. But yeah, that's how it was in my grandparents' house. You had a full meal in the summer. Sunday dinners were nice. My mom would actually take the reins and cook different things, because it would be like, with my grandfather during the weekdays, it would be like spaghetti, roast beef, pork, all kinds of crazy stuff, to tell you the truth. Well, not crazy stuff, but your usual stuff. My mom, it came to like lasagna, and she was always doing nice little different things. So, she'd get a recipe off the internet, and it would always come out great. I never complained about what my mom made. So, but really, I can't complain about going hungry anyway. I'm not too picky when it comes to eating, so. Oh, that's my radio. Well, alright guys, I hope this video was enjoyable for you. I'm pretty sure, yeah man, oof, horrible. We made 1,000, either 1 or 3, I can't quite tell. Yeah, $1,000. Oh man, that's probably not enough to repair the truck, but alright guys. I hope you guys did like this video. I understand if you didn't. I'll try to be better, a little bit more well rested, because when I'm filming this, I'm starting my Thanksgiving break. So alright guys, time to edit this and upload it. I'll see you in the next one. Later.